Welcome to episode 30 of the vlog. All right, so here we go. I am in New Jersey. I'm in Ocean City, New Jersey. I'm on a bit of a Northeast tour this week, and I've had a couple extremely important, extremely special stops along the way. None more special than where I'm at today. Ocean City, New Jersey, with a friend, a mentor, a colleague, but more importantly, a brother. Chuck, welcome to the vlog.
Thanks, brother.
It's been way too long. 30 episodes without Chuck Pearson.
30 episodes.
I don't know how we made it without Chuck Pearson for 30 episodes. I hope there's 30 more. So,
I think I snuck in maybe on episode 5 and I ran behind or something.
Yeah. Well, you were destined for this platform, and there's no better place for us to start this dialogue than right here. So Chuck, tell us where we're sitting. Yeah,
we are in the Seagull Shop, and the Seagull Shop was my wife's aunt and uncle's store. They got it in 1968. 1968. They bought it. It was a hardware store at the beginning for this building.
Yep.
They converted it to a bait and tackle, as you can see, fishing store, and a beach supply store. And it's family owned for 51 years, I guess.
Incredible. Incredible. And how long you've been coming here on the summers? How long have you been coming here?
So my wife, so Janice has been here her entire life. Matter of fact, she was born in '68, so Janice has been here since she was born. She grew up in North Jersey, but would come down here with her parents for the summer.
Yep.
And then we met in '89 at Rutgers, and I've been coming since 1989.
That's incredible. So tell the viewers here, because we'll talk a little bit about you and I and our work together and our great kind of friendship, mentorship, but tell the viewers, like, what does this shop mean to you? Because I know it means more than just a place of commerce and a, a cornerstone of the boardwalk. What does this shop mean to you and your family?
Yeah, I'd say this is legacy, this is history, this is family. When Uncle Bud started it, he always called it a hobby. It wasn't really, this wasn't his primary income. This was just to really serve the south end of Ocean City. The boardwalk is more up on the north end, a lot of stores and stuff up there. Very few commercial properties down here. There are literally, every year, Aunt, generations, like great-great-grandfather stuff, where someone's come in and said, my great-great-grandfather brought me in this store in 1968 or 69.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
And the stories continue every year. It's just, it's sort of like the great pair of pants or the great suit you have that just fits right.
Yes.
I know you should get rid of it. In theory, you should get rid of this suit because there's more new suits out there.
Yes.
Not here.
Yes.
You need this suit. This suit fits. Got to keep the suit.
That's incredible. So, I love the metaphor. I want to unpack that in a second. But I want to provide a little context. So, this is not your only passion, right? So, by day, Chuck is an executive. He's been in business his entire career, and that's actually where Chuck and I met. In one of my previous employers, and still a good client of ours, and we just have a really kind of deep history from a professional standpoint. Tell us a little bit about maybe what you do, like from a career standpoint, like what you do at Astellas, and how you balance that with like the juxtaposition of a bait shop.
I know,
in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's funny.
That's more than 1,000 miles away from Chicago.
Yeah, just about. Yeah. So been in the learning and development space for a long time, as you know. Run commercial learning and development at Astellas, and also run our promotional events team. So tremendous people that I work with, and it's an honor and a privilege every day to walk into that building. My purpose, the reason I love that space, is because I grew up in a family of teachers and coaches. So my mom was a teacher at Westfield Friends School. It's a Quaker school about an hour inland up by Philadelphia. And for 51 years, she's been a teacher. She's 84 now, 84. and she still teaches art.
That's incredible.
She'll jump in and teach phys ed when the phys ed teacher is out. My dad had a job, kind of a regular job, but also did coaching. He coached, refereed, anything with sports, football, basketball, baseball, he was involved with. And then my two sisters, my one sister has run a gymnastics gym. Her niece now owns it, so they're coaches. So this idea of coaching and developing runs through my blood like there's
That is incredible. You know what's interesting? Being a learning professional myself and now being surrounded by L&D folks from different industries, there is a common thread that typically pulls through, and that is you've either come from or have a true appreciation for the development, the enablement, the lighting up of people. And oftentimes people can equate that to a memory of their childhood or a parent that was a teacher. Myself, my mother was a teacher for 30 years.
Sure.
And I always tell the story, it's ingrained in my head, of the summers that I would spend when class was not in session with her setting up her classroom, her third grade classroom.
Summer. Yeah,
yes,
sure.
and the physical space and what that meant for these third graders to come in and have different zones to learn in that meant different things for their curriculum. And it's so interesting because fast forward 25 years, and I've done a lot of work now in the workspace design space, and that's actually how Chuck and I are very much connected. There was very much a passion project that he and I were both involved in that involved the redesign of a commercial learning and development center.
Sure.
And it's just so interesting how we call on some of those things that maybe we didn't know were an interest or developing in us as children, but as adults we think back. We're like, yeah, that's why I'm so interested in this.
That's the why, that's the why. Yeah, I love talking about those stories. It brings me back to the past, and it connects. And I'm proud of the family I come from, and I'm proud of the career I've had. But it's about helping others. It's always about helping others.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. I think maybe in the last 5 or so years, maybe, that I stopped worrying about the career attainment thing, and I just said, time out. Let me think about what drives me and what gives me satisfaction and where my passion is. And when I got this job in 2012 to lead Astellas Commercial Learning Development, I said, that's my dream job.
Yep.
I love it, and I'm going to do it for as long as they'll have me.
Absolutely. And I want to maybe switch gears to, I've been talking a lot recently about mentorship.
Sure.
And what it means to really, stand alongside somebody and really find what they're great at and kind of light that up in them. So, it's funny, before we started, I was like, Chuck, I don't even know how I'm going to introduce you because you are so many things to me in my life. But the one thing that I will always consider you is one of the best, if not the best, mentors that I have. And I have a handful of some incredible people in my life. And it's funny because...
It's very, very kind, but you have some great people.
At the same time, you and I were talking earlier about that word mentorship is so stale.
It is so stale.
When I think of you, I say the word mentor because you've given me a lot of guidance and I've come to you with a lot of the big decisions. We'll talk about those in a minute. But the word mentorship does not encompass what truly leading and enabling an individual really entails. And you and I talked about the fact that it is a bi-directional relationship. And so, when I joined Astellas in 2012, I spent 3 years essentially alongside Chuck, helping him with this vision of, building this department and really growing a team and creating a culture at this, large organization. And Chuck, because of the fact that he has such a deep history in coaching and developing and motivating people, immediately saw how to light me up. He knew the switches, and for me that meant autonomy, that meant creativity, and that meant the ability to push a little bit.
Love it.
And not all leaders, A, would even recognize that, but B, would have the ability then to find ways to leverage that, right, to the benefit of the team and the organization. And you did that so nicely with me, and I know that's why so many people love the way that you lead. So maybe speak a little bit to your version of mentorship and what that means to you, because there are a handful of people like myself that go to you for these things, and there's a bit of magic in it that can't be defined. What is that?
Yeah, no, it's boy, that's a tremendous question. I do think I agree with you. The word mentorship, definitely one of those words we need to rethink.
There's got to be another name for it.
You know, you and I have talked before about reciprocal mentorship.
Yeah.
This idea that we learn from each other. I mean, I've learned more from you than I think I've ever taught you. You may feel differently, but I feel that way. Like you pushed me in areas that stretched me to my limit, and vice versa. So we've had a great connection on that. I say too that it's mentorship to me isn't about trying to create you to be like me, right? If I'm the older mentor, right? The old, remember the old mentor and the mentee. And I had to be 20 years older than you for me to have any knowledge. Like that's all gone out the window.
It is.
It's about hope. It's about hope. It's about creating hope and listening to you and listening to the person. And maybe it's just a slight little push or a little nudge.
So interesting.
Just get you going on this path. It might be confidence. It's confidence to give you to say, you know what, step out there. You got this. I mean, you and I talked about even your career at Astellas. You could have the longest career at Astellas. You could have a tremendous. Your background at Pfizer, Astellas. It would have confined you.
Yeah.
It was inevitable.
Yeah.
So you know what? Rip the Band-Aid off and get after it. And that's what you did. Right? Rip it off and get after it.
Which is a little bit different than a nudge, but like essentially it was those conversations that was the kind of proverbial nudge that allowed me to see, you know, my ability to stretch out, which ultimately, you know, enabled me to move out west and to start a business. And it's just so funny how now, you know, I come full circle and I'm sitting with you here now, and we have, I would say, even more of a stronger, and let's not even use the word mentorship, relationship now. It is truly bidirectional.
It is.
And you know, I was talking just the other day with you know, another friend and colleague about this concept of mentorship, and one of the things that we agreed on is that, you know, mentorship allows you to connect the past and see the future. And I think you put the nail on the head, which is through gentle nudges. So like,
doesn't have to be dramatic.
100%. Like you and I will never allow each other to forget our past.
No.
Because we make investments and commitments to revisit, like where we're sitting right here, right? It's a small investment in our relationship. It allows us to dialogue. It allows us to continue to nudge each other, which I love that term. And at the same time, I know for a fact you will never allow me to oversee what's right in front of me.
Sure, absolutely. And then always bring you back to the roots where you are, to what you're trying to do. Because again, I know for you, it's not been about, I want to start a company, make all this money. You know, like for you, it's been about this passion of building and developing. And I love that. And I feel like in the last 5 to 7 years, you and I have come to that realization that it's not always about the career thing, and it's all about money. It's just about contentment. What impact are you going to have on someone's life? I mean, I have 2 boys, 21 and 18. One's at Notre Dame, one's at the United States Naval Academy. Couldn't be more proud of those boys. It is about following, I tell them, forget the money, forget all that stuff. It's about following your path, following your passion, just thinking about what is it that ignites you every day to do that.
That's incredible.
And that's my, you know, in a way, my mentorship, right, to them as a father is don't get caught up in following the Joneses and running around and doing all this other stuff. Just stay focused on what excites you. Yeah. What excites you.
It's so interesting. You know, I think too about like what gets you to that point where you're not necessarily reaching for the money or the objectivity. Like, is it life experience? Is it, you know, is it getting punched in the gut? You know, like, is it a combination of a few of those things? Or is it just simply like, you know, experience and age?
Yeah,
I refuse to think that it's experience and age.
Yeah.
Because I think some people see that a lot earlier in their lives, like this opportunity to help others, and the fact that like it's not just about the money and the growth.
Yeah. So I don't know if I have a single event, but I will share this with you.
Yeah.
You know my soccer background. You know, soccer's been a huge part of my life, and you know, the one thing about soccer is it is a total team sport, more than almost any team sport.
Yeah.
There's no timeouts.
Right.
It's 45 minutes each half. It's a free-flowing game. Yeah, there might be a couple set pieces that you have something, but at the end of the day, it's about 11 individuals working as this unit together. You can have the greatest soccer player in the world, arguably Messi, and 10 other people like me on the team. That team's never going to win.
Yep.
But if you were to take people that were like middle of the road and put those guys all together, you have a good chance of winning.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always been about how in the game of life and soccer do you add value to your teammates and make them better, which inherently makes you better, makes the team better.
Yeah.
I could take the ball and dribble the whole time. That would be a terrible idea. Anybody who knows soccer knows you don't over dribble the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I need to do? Get the ball in my foot and play it where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Play it where it needs to go. Let that person do their thing, and now we're moving up the field. And I think that's where it came from when I was, probably 10 to 15 years old. I mean, I just fell in love with the game. I fell in love with it not being an individual game. I get very, my personality. I don't like, necessarily people that want the spotlight because it's about them. We all like to have accolades and get a pat on the back, but it's more about the other pieces of helping others. And I think that's where it came from. And then again, back to family, growing up with, a group of people, and my two sisters, my mom and my dad, who were all about giving back. So if you're a youth baseball coach or a referee in football, you're sure not doing it for the money. You're doing it to give back to the community. So I grew up in this environment of staring at that from my family.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So love the soccer metaphors. I've been a student of your soccer metaphors for like 4 or 5 years, and he always comes up with new ones.
We always got another one.
I'm like drawing X and O's in my mind as you're going through them. Maybe to switch gears back to kind of your professional space. So, L&D right now, you're leading a group of learning professionals. You've been through kind of several transformative periods with these folks. Now that we have a handful of clients from across different industries in this space, I can say that the Astellas team is probably one of the more high-performing, more innovative L&D groups that I've seen in the industry. And I'm just curious, because I know I was alongside for those 2 or 3 years where you made that transformation, but like, how do you keep that spark alive, particularly from an L&D perspective with these folks?
Yeah, it's really the great question. And thanks for bringing up the team, because you know how much what I feel about those guys, and they are literally the best team I've ever been around. Not just team of professionals that do good work, but human beings that do great things in their life for their families and communities. I think we went through this series of crazy growth, redefining the learning space, building virtual learning centers, building environments, and that was tremendous from like 2012 to, what is it, 15 somewhere in there. And then I think we got to a place where it wasn't necessarily build, but it was, what is the end user, the rep experience, what does the representative need to get to that next level? So we've done a lot of cool things in the space with working with outside organizations like AUA, ASCO, advanced training. We've elevated that up to another level where we send people to ASCO's headquarters in Virginia. This week we have people at AUA in Virginia. We've got people at these major institutions in front with key thought leaders who are getting better. And if they get better, they deliver better value to the physician and the healthcare professional, who then delivers better value to the patient. It's all completely connected, completely connected. So smarter rep, improved representative is going to lead to better patient experience. And that's really where we focused over the last few years. It's been maybe less about the environment per se and more about these advanced learning opportunities. And then the other story I always bring up is, I think I've read a lot recently about sort of the next generation, right? The younger, even younger than your generation. And
nobody's younger than me, Chuck.
Nobody's younger than you.
That's why they call me Young Ant.
Young Ant. That's true. That's true. But being there's a real need out there to learn. There's this appetite to learn that hasn't maybe been with all of us for a while, and I think that younger generation now, that's a big thing. I sent an article to my boys today about your ability to learn is probably, and like EQ, are probably going to be 2 of the areas, and creativity, let's say 3, that you're going to, if you have that, you're going to be successful in whatever you do. Creativity, high emotional intelligence, and the ability to never stop learning.
Which I call that learning at scale, which is such a tricky thing to provide in a world where, you and I came from, the older industry, if you will, where training was literally a box that was shipped to your house.
100%.
You had 3 or 4 weeks to kind of consume information, and then you would come for, an event.
Sure.
And that was very much what we call training,
sure.
right? So we're focused now on this shift to learning, and you're making a really good case that now it's learning at scale. It's how do we meet the needs of the younger generation that has all of this information at their fingertips, and even myself. I mean, I think about the way that I learn today as just a normal human being. I'm doing a lot in the personal development space, and I'm learning a ton about, meditation and growth and neuroscience, and I'm doing it without a box of books.
Sure.
I'm doing it without going to significant events. Like, it's literally like YouTube's in the background in my apartment, and I'm asking Alexa all of the questions, and she's providing the answers. And so my eyes were open when I went to business school, and I was in a classroom full of younger students that just had this ability to access information at their fingertips. And it's such an interesting challenge for us to have to solve for when we're so used to the typical formula, which is didactic, reading, coming in for an event, and then our folks are considered ramped or ready to sell.
Sure.
So I love the fact that the progression for you, if I can teach it back, was first, let's focus on this transition from training to learning. You did that through different environments and different platforms and bringing different technology in. You then went through a phase where you had this intense focus on essentially the end user. In design thinking, we call that really empathizing with the end user and making sure that experience is super tight.
It's super tight.
Because you can have the environments and the platforms, but how we're touching and hitting our end user matters. And that has to do with content and curriculum design. And it sounds like right now you're at, how do we scale that? Like, how do we now make a more robust, but yet still customized experience that is at the fingertips, and it's not necessarily the box of books that's being shipped at home?
Yeah, and I think that's probably, it's a good point. One of the hardest things we're going to have to probably focus as L&D professionals in the next 10 to 15 years is this idea of customized tracks, of self-learning, of looking at the individual, not necessarily we have 10 new reps that we need to train and we all need to train the exact same way. You and I learn differently. Like, me, if you give me a module to read, my head's going to blow off.
You do have a whole locker full of them in your office.
I do have, and I like seeing them. I like binders because I'm old. I like seeing the binder with a nice tab. What I will say, though, I learn more from discussion, from watching, from talking, from watching others. I just have that kind of mind where somebody else might be like, I don't need all that. I just want to give me the module, and I'm pretty good at that. It was funny. I'll tell you one quick story. Thomas was my 18-year-old, fisherman, likes to fish. Obviously, we have plenty of fishing gear here, but he wanted to learn how to fly fish. Learn how to fly fish. Now, the old way of learning how to fly fish would have been, let me go find a class.
Or somebody who knows.
Some old guy, right? Some guy been out there fly fishing, right? Going and pulling the thing back. We've all seen it. It looks super complicated. It is. Thomas, YouTube videos, taught himself how to fly fish. Not only that, taught him what gear to buy. We go to Ireland. We get him with a guide. He goes out for a week on fly fishing and caught all kinds of brown trout and everything.
I saw the pictures.
No class. You saw the pictures. No class, no nothing. Just self-learning, self-taught, YouTube, other training, other videos, his pace. He could rewatch it. It was a great thing. It's pretty cool.
And it's fun to solve for, right? Because we now have the tools and the technology, et cetera, but there still needs to be this, human element, right? So I want to talk to that a little bit too, because it's interesting as you and I kind of took the team through this transformation from training and learning. As much as we were investing, capital into space and platforms and technology, there was always this need for the human element. And I do see companies continuing to put all of their eggs in the technology basket.
I know.
And they're trying to use technology to solve for, increasing learning outcomes and decreasing time to ramp and scaling organizations in the startup space. But they're missing that human element. And I know it's still a big part of your program. Maybe speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, it is. So I'm glad you brought that up. It really is. I think there's a balance, right? I think we've used technology, of course, the center that you designed to reach to many and to do smaller, our distance learning center. We've done great things. We've used technology in a way to make the live experience better. So in other words, what does that mean? On the front end of training, we get people together in these small communities, distance-based, when they're doing home study. but they've already connected. So when they get in there on day one, you and I have already met. We're two new people. You're from Chicago, I'm from Jersey. We're both new trainees. Normally on Monday morning will be the first time you and I have ever laid eyes on each other, and the first time you've ever laid eyes on the trainer. Well, that's all gone. We do all that on the front end. When you walk in, you know your trainer, you know your class, you know your community, and you're already moving along. So there's a balance. Now, if you ask me, do I think all training should be distance-based and we never have a human being? The answer is you're going to have to convince me that's the way to go. For me, it's a no. I think for our company, it's a no, all the way up to our president. Even the other day, let me give you one other example. We were going to do away with a live orientation. We've always, you remember going in with me and doing that. We were going to do away with live orientation. Many companies have. Maybe it's successful. Doesn't fit with the Astellas culture. We fought hard to keep that live environment. So now, after many months of negotiation, we are still going to bring the representatives in. And the feedback we get from those folks, because I've been asking many of them over the last 6 months, they're like, oh yeah, I've been at 3 other companies. Invaluable. It's all been distance. It's been terrible. No connection. I feel like right out of the gate, I have a strong connection with the culture of Astellas. Absolutely.
I think there's a proportional relationship between how much we invest in technology-driven learning and almost outsourcing the learning experience. That is directly related to how effective our people are. Because the more we can rely on technology and platforms, the less our people actually have to sharpen their craft at getting in front of a class and leading a classroom. And so it's almost like you owe it to your people to say you still have a stake in this. Like you still have a major part in this. There's a delivery mechanism that cannot be performed through a computer or in the cloud, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how we continue to build great learning leaders, is we put them in front of the classroom and we say, your job is to facilitate experience that technology cannot.
Sure. You and I talk about practitionership. You and I do this a lot. For me, it's about being great at your craft. And I think this stemmed, again, we're going to bring back a little soccer history, but growing up, spending, 6 hours a day in the summer, grinding on soccer fields in Morristown, New Jersey, behind where nobody was, and out on my own, hitting the ball off the kickboard, getting better, was practitionership at its essence to me. So when I think about my trainers, I want them to be great practitioners of L&D. They're all going to move on and do other things. They're probably not going to end their career at 28 as a sales trainer, right? It's more of a developmental role. However, be great at the moment you're in. Be great at that moment. Put the extra work in. And I talked about this the other day. I made up this number. Don't quote me on this, but 37 minutes a day. I say this to every class. I say, how great would you be if you spent 37 minutes a day, doesn't have to be continuous, learning and getting better at your craft. So you're going to go out and do your craft as a representative. You're going to make your calls 8, 9 hours, whatever it's going to be. You're going to work. But what if you figured out a way to take a lunch break and go 37 minutes, I'm going to get better at something that I'm not good at. I'm going to read. I'm going to watch something that maybe I need to be better at asking better questions. Maybe I need to be a better listener. I talk too much. Think about that, and you can multiply that out. I try to do that every morning. I try to at least get 15 to 20 in right out of the gate. I do something midday, and I do some at the end of the day. I carve out the time, and I feel like I'm learning and getting better, and I need to pass that on to my team.
Okay, so goosebumps. How many times am I going to get goosebumps from this guy telling that story? Because he tells it a lot, but every time it means a little something different for me. And when I hear you talk about this whole 37 minutes metaphor, I just love it, because for me, I call that the work. And it is all about the work. And I know this is so simple, but the process that we follow is what gets us the results. It's not necessarily the effort that we put in or the goals that we have, but it's the process that we follow. And what I know you do with your people is you challenge people, even if it's just for 37 minutes a day, are we doing something every day to get better?
Something
Absolutely.
every day.
Yeah, and I just think that is so incredible. And as learning professionals, I've talked about on the vlog before about how the L&D role itself has evolved to become a little bit more operational. Our role is no longer, you know, this glamorous in front of the classroom 90% of the time.
Sure.
We are very much operators. You know, it's been subject to a lot of rules and regulations and med reg and you know, and oftentimes people would say like our hands are tied behind our back.
Sure.
At the same time, I think that that is a challenge for us to get better in areas that maybe are a little atypical or non-traditional.
Yeah, totally agree.
And today, that means sometimes getting in front of your peers and making mistakes.
Sure.
That means practicing 37 minutes a day and reporting back to your folks. So
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you bringing that up. We've been switching gears so much here, but I love the discussion. I want to ask you a question that
Does that shock you?
Yeah,
get together?
So I want to ask you a question I'm asking everybody.
Yeah.
And you haven't been prepped for this, so I wouldn't be surprised if you don't have a real quick answer.
Yeah, no problem.
What are you geeking out about today? Like, what are you absolutely geeking out about today? And it can have nothing to do with your career. It can be something you ate or a show that you watched or an experience that you had. Like, what are you super geeking out about today?
Yeah, that's a great question. God, I love that question. I think for me right now, meditation.
Love that you said that.
So just beginning my journey, working, listening to who you like, doing some other research. I'm going to talk to a couple other folks that I know that have been doing this.
Yep.
We started to incorporate meditation into some of our training and meetings lately. We did one in July.
What does that look
leadership. We had someone come in and we took 20 people through meditation, about a 30-minute session. And when I finished, I was more energized. It was like 2 in the afternoon. You know, the 2 in the afternoon, day 2
in the middle of a meeting.
Where you sit, and you know, we're not used to sitting, we're used to doing.
Sure.
My eyes are closing, I'm exhausted. Person comes in, leads us to a meditation. Literally 30 minutes. I felt like I could have, you know, gone out for a long bike ride.
Interesting.
Right, or a walk or whatever. So I really want to get deeper. I just like this idea of being calm. Letting things be comfortable in a space, not be overly stressed, and not worry.
Yep.
You know, well, you know my background a little bit in the health history with dealing with cancer, and it's easy to allow those thoughts to come in your mind, right? And worry. Worry does no good. You know, I'm living right now, this minute, in this building, with one of literally the greatest human beings I've ever met.
And
that is living. That is living. That's living. Got to live your life, man. Got to live your life every day, every second. And I'm hoping that meditation, you know, is a way to help me get there. Yeah. Yeah. We've been through a lot.
So it's interesting, this moment, you know, even you bringing up meditation and, you know, you and I kind of both intentionally pausing here was just, you know, so powerful to just stop. I mean, we're sitting in front of a camera, you know, we're trying to kind of articulate our thoughts, but at the same time, like, I'm in Ocean City, New Jersey with one of my best friends.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if you don't stop and acknowledge that, like in the moment, and it doesn't, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go away and meditate for 30 minutes, but like I think something just happened and you challenged us to stop in this moment and acknowledge exactly where we're at. And like, to me, that's the highest form of meditation. And I want to thank you for that.
I think the people around us in our life deserve the respect of attention. And I think at times, with the society we have and with the digital influence and multimedia, and we're always, you know, on the phone. I get it, I am too, and there's a lot of great things. This isn't about bashing, you know, anything that, you know, with technology. But, you know, when my wife asked me a question, when Janice asked me a question, you know, she deserves my attention. And I need, you know, and that's the thing where I want to work through being a better husband, a better father, a better friend, a better mentor, a better coach, through just listening to people and being in that moment right then, and not, what am I doing in 5 minutes? What do I have next? I have this going on. Just be in the moment, man. I mean, life is so short and it's so precious, And of course, when anyone's battling a life-threatening disease, it becomes even more precious, every minute.
Yeah.
And but for me too, with this, it's all been about showing my boys that
what it looks
tough.
like.
Like not just be a tough guy, like not to be like I have those weak moments, but to be like you're going to have adversity. It could be little adversity, medium adversity, big adversity. You're going to have it. Everybody gets it in life. And how are you going to get through that adversity? And you just gotta reach deep, man. You gotta reach deep and be like, I have a strong faith, I have a strong community, I have strong love around me, and I those people that are around me, that are propping me up, deserve me to fight as long as I can fight.
Man, yeah, it's hard for me to add to that, but I will try. I think one of the things that you have taught me, alongside dealing with adversity, is that the highest form of support that you can show somebody is showing up. And sometimes that means like physically being there for somebody. And it's so interesting, as technology advances and as it gets easier for us to stay connected without physically being together, our relationship is one that has taught me very clearly that like physically sitting alongside somebody in their time of need, in some of their best moments, cannot be duplicated or replicated. And it's
FaceTime
100%. And it is why I do this. It's why I came out here this week, and it's why we just had this incredible moment where we both at the same time acknowledged how special it was that you and I have made the commitment to our relationship, to our mentorship, if that's what you want to call it, to our friendship in this moment right here and right now. And Chuck, I just want to thank you for everything. I want to thank you for your guidance, for demonstrating what good looks like both professionally and personally. And I want to thank you for joining this vlog. This was an incredible one. If you guys could feel the energy in this room right now and just how special this is, for me to be here supporting you and to continue to learn from you, it really is something else. So Chuck, thank you very much for joining.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Love you, brother.
Love you. Love you. Proud of you.
So we will continue to bring these incredible stories and, more importantly, these incredible humans to you all on an episode by episode basis. Have a great rest of the week. Holy that was
oh my God. Yeah, we were on a string holding that together.